Story number 1, the shadow in the woods. I've been driving trucks for over 20 years, and I've seen my fair share of strange things on the road, but nothing has ever shaken me quite like what happened one night in the back roads of Tennessee. It was late October, and I was hauling a load of furniture from Knoxville to Chattanooga. The route was familiar, but the night felt different, thicker, darker, like the air itself was holding its breath. I decided to pull over at a small rest stop just off Highway 27. It wasn't much, just a gravel lot with a couple of flickering streetlights and a rusted-out picnic table. My dog, Max, a scrappy little terrier who's been my co-pilot for years, was usually calm, but that night he was on edge. He sat upright in the passenger seat, his ears twitching, his eyes locked on the tree line just beyond the lot. I should have taken that as a sign to keep driving, but I was exhausted. I stepped out of the truck, the gravel crunching under my boots. The lot was empty except for my rig, and the silence was unnerving. No crickets, no wind, just the faint hum of the streetlights. I lit a cigarette and leaned against the hood, trying to shake the feeling that I was being watched. That's when I saw it, a shadow moving just beyond the tree line. It was tall, too tall to be a person, and it moved in a way that didn't feel natural. It didn't walk. It glided, like it was hovering just above the ground. I froze, my cigarette dangling from my lips. Max started growling, low and deep, his hackles raised. The shadow stopped, and for a moment, it felt like it was staring right at me. Then, without warning, it vanished into the trees. I didn't stick around to see if it would come back. I grabbed Max, jumped into the truck, and got the hell out of there. I've driven past that rest stop a dozen times since then, but I've never stopped again. Sometimes when I'm on that stretch of road at night, I'll catch a glimpse of something in my rearview mirror, a shadow, tall and unnatural, standing just at the edge of the trees. And every time Max starts growling all over again. Story number 2, the red truck. I've been a delivery driver for about 10 years now, mostly running routes through the Midwest. It's a lonely job, but it pays the bills. One night, though, I had an experience that made me question whether I wanted to keep doing it. It was around 2 a.m., and I was driving through rural Illinois. The road was empty, just me and my van, cruising under a sky full of stars. That's when I saw the red truck. It was an old pickup, maybe from the 70s, with a rusted-out bed and a single flickering headlight. It was parked on the side of the road, and as I passed it, I noticed something strange. The driver's door was wide open, but there was no one inside. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe someone had broken down and gone for help. But then, about 10 miles down the road, I saw it again. The same red truck, parked in the exact same position, door open, no driver. My stomach dropped. There was no way it could have gotten ahead of me. I hadn't passed any side roads and the highway was straight as an arrow. I kept driving, my hands gripping the wheel. Another 10 miles, and there it was again. The red truck, same as before. This time I slowed down, my heart pounding in my chest. As I got closer, I saw something that made my blood run cold. There was a figure standing next to the truck, but it wasn't a person. It was tall and thin, with long, spindly limbs and a face that was just wrong. It didn't have eyes, just two dark, hollow sockets that seemed to stare right through me. I hit the gas and didn't look back. When I finally reached my destination, I called the local police and told them what I'd seen. They said they'd check it out, but I never heard back. To this day, I don't know what that thing was, but I do know this. I never drive through rural Illinois at night anymore. Story number 3, the hitchhiker. This happened back in 2015, when I was still new to trucking. I was driving through the Nevada desert, hauling a load of electronics from Las Vegas to Reno. It was a long, lonely stretch of road, and I was starting to feel the weight of the hours. That's when I saw her, a young woman standing on the side of the highway, thumb out, like she was hitchhiking. Now, I don't usually pick up hitchhikers, but something about her made me stop. She was dressed in a white sundress, her hair blowing in the wind, and she looked so out of place in the middle of the desert. I rolled down my window and asked if she needed help. She nodded and climbed into the cab without a word. She didn't say much at first, just stared out the window as we drove. I tried to make small talk, but she only gave one-word answers. After a while, I noticed something strange. She wasn't casting a shadow. The sun was low in the sky, and the light was streaming through the windshield, but there was nothing on the seat next to me. Just empty space. I tried to stay calm, but my hands were shaking on the wheel. I asked her where she was headed, and she finally spoke. "Just up the road," she said, her voice soft and distant. "You'll know when we get there." A few miles later, she pointed to a small dirt road leading off the highway. "Here," she said. I pulled over, and she got out without another word. I watched her walk down the road until she disappeared into the desert. I didn't stick around to see if she came back. A few days later, I mentioned the encounter to another driver at a truck stop. He went pale and told me about a local legend, a ghostly hitchhiker who appears on that stretch of road, always in a white sundress. They say she died there years ago, trying to hitch a ride home. I don't know if it's true, but I do know this. I've never picked up another hitchhiker since.